Welcome, everyone, to episode number 8 of the Fuck It podcast, where we're looking to show people if you can change your mind, you can change your life. I have a friend and fellow real estate investor, Phil Vaughan, somebody I like a lot, even though he's from New Jersey. Me and Phil connected a few years back and just had a story that was very relatable to mine. Has been through a lot of trials and tribulations in life, and now is a successful husband, father, and business person. So just wanted to have him on so he can share his life journey with us. So Phil, welcome. Thanks for coming on, and tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, number one, Frank, I appreciate you inviting me here. Always love talking with you, and just a phone call before. We even arrived here. Feels like the podcast itself didn't meet you. Like we already went over some meat. Hopefully he was, recording all that as well. So I'm Phil Vaughan from the one and only South Jersey, the cleaner class than the and the Tacony and the Port Richmond guys and the Frankfurt guys. We're right on the other side of the water.
We might have to edit that out of the podcast.
Our softball team's better than obviously the Philly side. The Philly side cheats.
The record would say otherwise, but
the Philly side cheats.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm right across the Tacony Bridge, so all those little river towns. I lived in like 3-4 towns there. 42 years old. Been in real estate this month, 4 years all in. Wholesale, do novations, flip. Have a small rental portfolio. Before that, I was coming from the steel business. I was in the steel business selling rebar. First, building products to concrete contractors in New York City, North Jersey, a little bit in Philly. So I did that since about 25 years old. I kind of accidentally got into that trade. It was right down the street from my house, didn't have a license, get into that kind of stuff. I was kind of getting my life back together. And it was the first job I got into. They said, hey, we like you. We want you to sell our concrete products. And then I started selling the rebar for high rise in New York. So that's where I gained just a lot of life experience, wisdom, people skills. And you ever read that book, Acre of Diamonds?
No.
Acre of Diamonds is a Philadelphia story about the founder of Temple, Russell Cromwell. And this book was just so relatable from coming out of the steel business. I was traveling up to New York like 4 days a week and just coming back home. Coming back home to the South Jersey, Philly area. And in that book, he says, Philadelphians at that time, early 1900s, all the best brains were going to New York, to do their business. And he was like, you guys got to come back home, stay in Philadelphia, build up Philadelphia. There's an acre of diamonds right in our backyard if you guys would just think. So I'd read that book like once a year, short little book, awesome book. And I did not even go to high school. I felt like if you had to succeed in South Jersey or Philly, you needed a degree. Even if I wanted to be like a project manager or an estimator, whatever, you needed a degree. So I said, you know what? In New York, no one cares. They don't care if you're black, white, Asian, if you're a criminal, if you freaking stutter, if you hustle and you think and network, you can make it. So I gave New York, 12 years of hustle. Finally, I found out that there are some people locally, wholesaling and flipping. I'm like, crap, well, that's something I could do where people don't care. So that was 4 years ago, basically almost today, like this week.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to make the transition from being in that, in that business for 12 years and, just from knowing you, I know that you were making, good money, you were having success doing that.
Yeah.
What made you want to leave that and start something on your own?
Well, if there's any New York listeners, the BQE. The Holland Tunnel, sitting in that Holland Tunnel, sitting in the BQE. I mean, you're in traffic for just hours. Now, for me, I wouldn't mind because I'm talking on the phone, I'm, selling, et cetera. But so half it was just the traveling up there all the time. Sometimes we had to do dinners in Brooklyn at Peter Luger's. You're not getting out of there till 9 p.m., and I got to go all the way home to South Jersey, 2-hour drive. Sometimes you'd be in Long Island, way out in Long Island. If you ever see Long Island, you can drive 4 hours, the opposite direction of us. And you're leaving there at 9 p.m. I'm like, oh, my God, I got a 3.5, 4 hour drive back. So that, plus my potential there, probably regarding pay, started to be capped. The family that I worked for in the steel business, they taught me so much. I I apply so much what they taught me to my business and how I think and all kind of stuff. They really put me on. At 25 years old, when I had nothing, they put me on. But something started happening with my commission, and I could see why. I started breaking their commission plan where I'm supposed to be paid much more, and they're like, "Hey, a salesperson can't make that much. I'm sorry." And I'm like, "Well, I'm doing my thing. I'm freaking out there, pulling rabbits out of hat.
If I'm making this money, that means I must be making you guys a lot of money too."
And so I don't want to blame them because they've been so good to me, but they're like, "Hey, we got to change it around." And Frank, right then and there, I said, "You know what? I just can't let someone else dictate my life like that, like dictate my income. If I'm going to go down, it's my fault.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm being lazy, I'm going to make less income. But if I hustle, if I do the right thing, I'm going to make more income." So it's kind of like a decision I made. Like, I just can't let someone control my destiny. I'd rather have the economy control my destiny. If there's a recession, I go down. But so good or bad, up or down, I gotta be in control. I gotta make a choice. So it was that, and then I hooked up with this financial guy. It's the Power of a Network, and he told me about Joe Evangelisti. He said, "Phil, he's right in Haddonfield. He has these meetups all the time." He's like, "You keep telling me, like, you got to get out the steel business. You got to do something locally." And he's like, "You get with these guys. They're simple people. You get with these guys, Phil, I can guarantee you're probably going to be out, the steel business, doing what they do." And so I guess another month or two later, got into his mastermind, 5 Gs, 2 days. Always believed in, paying for, advancement. Drew Farnese was there. Who else was there? A lot of local guys were there. So just getting with them and kind of seeing like normal people are crushing it in Philly and South Jersey. I was like, this is it, man. I could do this.
I can do this. If these motherfuckers can do it, I can too.
To tell you the truth, I was like, man, some of these guys are chumps. So ask Joe. Like, I went to the second one. Like, the second one was like maybe 45 days later or 60 days later, whatever it was. And I was like, hey, I'm leaving the steel business. And I was up to, $330-ish at the time per year, $1,000 car allowance, dinners wherever I wanted. We were always taking customers at Peter Luger's, Prime, like wherever it was in New York or Philly, Vegas trips. So all the perks were there, but...
Yeah, so talk about that, because you weren't somebody that was like struggling financially or
I had rentals at the time. I was buying rentals while I was in the steel business.
Yeah, so like you went from making $300,000 a year, working for someone else, and I'm sure you probably didn't make that the first year in real estate. So talk about just making that transition and like what the mindset was and how you felt at that time.
It was tough. So like Drew was saying about his wife, he has a supportive wife. So ran it by the wife. She says, "Well, you've been complaining for a year." And I was always like, it's always like you have to speak stuff before it happens. Sometimes for a year, sometimes 5 years. You got to keep speaking of stuff, then it finally happens. So I was just like, Allison, I'm better than this. I'm telling my dad, like, I'm telling you, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something. It's gonna be more than these rentals. It's gonna be something else. So just continually to speak about it. And so when I finally did it, I told Joe, like, Joe, do you think I have it? What a vulnerable question. He's like, yeah, you definitely have it, dude. You definitely have it. He wasn't blowing smoke, the way he worded it. And I was like, all right, that's it. So left with no wholesale income. I think maybe I had maybe a $10K deal in the pipeline, thinking it was going to close right away. And then like reality hit, did it close for like 2 months. But so dude, it was cold turkey from $330 and change, all the perks, to zero. All I had was, my savings and little rental income. So it was definitely a grind, but I hit the bottom and sprang up like a jack in the box pretty fast. Before the steel business, I was a hustler through and through. Right? We know how to survive. We know how to make things happen. And in the darkest areas of my life, I was still able to rise in those departments. So I kind of knew that was my default. I'll make it happen. I couldn't breathe for 6 months. I felt like just mentally, physically, emotionally, there was just a shortness of breath. And still, I can be a little bit like that today also. I remember 1 month in, or maybe right before I left the steel business, I told Joe, I was like, Joe, I'm scared, man. and Joe's like, whatever, 5, 6, 10 years in business. I don't know. He's like, Phil, I'm scared too.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, that's the funny part, right? Like, people think like, oh, like they're lucky because they're not scared. Like, no, motherfucker, everyone is scared, right? But are you gonna control the fear, or are you gonna let the fear control you? That's the difference. You know, and you didn't let the, you know, it's not that, you know, you don't eliminate that fear. You just don't let it control you.
Right. Something else has to kind of overtake. It's still there, but something else
exactly.
is on top of it.
Exactly.
So when he said that cracked me up. I said, well, that's it then. I guess we do it scared.
Yeah.
You know, so so it took 6 months, and you know, believe it or not, the first year I got pretty close to my income.
Nice.
Which I was trying to beat my income that first year. So if I didn't, you know what, I might have broke even that first year, because I remember just having that as a super aggressive goal. If not a little bit below it. So I didn't do too bad at all. And I just had mentors all around me, though. That's the big difference.
Yeah, and that's key.
It takes some people maybe 3 years to do that. I just had mentors all around me because I knew better.
I would say like that was literally one of the biggest mistakes that I made. Like, I still had like that fucking poor person's mindset. So I'm like, I'm going to figure this out on my own. And all I did was lean on bigger pockets. So it literally took me 18 months to get to a point where I was consistently closing deals, because I was just ignorant to the fact that you can actually, you know, lean on other people.
Well, you know, it was with me is I didn't have any time to waste, because I'm already coming to the party late. You know, I'm 37, 38 years old. And I gave the steel business so much because of my self-limiting beliefs. I didn't think there was anything down here for a guy that didn't graduate high school, didn't have a college degree. So, you know, I'll say since 35, I'm like, I got to catch up now. You know, I know I have it. I know I'm normal. If not, you know, God's given me better gifts than some people. I know I have it. And so, I just started hiring coaches, and you know, plus the reading habits from 24 years old greatly helped. But anyway, so I didn't have time to play around.
And you talked about self-limiting beliefs. You know, I know like how, you know, your story. So talk about, you know, how you know, why and how you had the self-limiting beliefs, and touch, you know, a little bit on your experiences like growing up, and, you know, how life was before you even got in the steel business.
Give me a time limit so I don't get too verbose.
I will interject if needed, Phil.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so, just growing up, you know, parents, you know, aren't together. You know, a lot of my friends, you know, the dad wasn't around. You know, we're very mischievous kids. Just tell you the truth, little criminals. You know, I moved.
I can relate.
Yeah, I know you can. So, talking to the choir. I remember when my parents separated. I was in second grade. We're in this little town called Delanco. Delanco is like directly across. What town is that? I think it's still the northeast. We could throw a rock at the northeast. So it was a little river town. And kids played street hockey on the street. We were playing even stickball back then. My brother had a stickball league. It was just so much cool stuff to do at that age. And I moved to Delran, which is actually a little bit of a nicer town than Delanco. Still a blue-collar town, but a little bit of a nicer town. Only 1 mile away. Follow the river 1 mile. There it is. But in that neighborhood, I get there for the first year, and I'm looking for baseball games, anything, any game going on that I can jump in, basketball. And kids weren't playing sports in my neighborhood. A couple were, but... I'm like, what do you guys do around here? They're like, oh, we break in cars at night. There's a boat yard right down the street. Dude, we get into these boats and we get these radars and we sell them to pawn shops. It's just all kind of crazy stuff. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, you know, and then, Frank, you hang out with. You know what I mean? Like, I got to write a book on that one day. Like, you are who you hang out with. Hang out with awesome people. You're going to start subliminally, you know, doing what they do. Thinking like them, you know, even laughing like them. We're such multiple people. But so I sometimes I give these talks, you know, it could be, you know, in a jail or a rehab or a halfway house or at church, and I was talking about the bad kids, and my friend came up to me that grew up with me. He's like, Phil, I always said you're the bad one. You influenced me, you know. But anyway, you with those, you know, bad kids, and you do what they do. So I was just getting in trouble left and right, getting locked up in a detention center all the time, 6, 7 times. You know, a couple of my friends would be there, and on house arrest, you know, juvenile parole. They were having kids, you know, so I got my girlfriend pregnant at 15 years old.
I thought I started young.
Yeah, so 15, and I was in 9th grade. It was like my first month, maybe 2 months in 9th grade, and just acting up, man. Like I told you before, like I threw the kitchen sink at, you know, my upbringing with therapists and, you know, Christian counselors, everything. meditation, whatever. And I still can't figure it all out, but there was just a lot of issues growing up,
Yep.
you know, that I started becoming more aware of. You know, just acting out for weird reasons. And so I got kicked out of high school the first couple months there. I tell people I never quit. I got kicked out, and I was placed in some reform school. It was for Burlington County. It was like 3-4 the worst kids from every town. And I always felt like I didn't, you know, deserve to be there. But this school was like 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day. On Saturdays was a half day. It's one day of construction work, and then the next day of school was like academics and counseling and stuff like that. So it's just a crazy. It made me so miserable. You know, during these, you know, high school years, you're supposed to be developing, you know, social skills and just, you know, basic skills. And I'm in this reform school. The school is so bad, you can get locked up and they'll pick you up from the detention center with your jail uniform, bring you to school for the day, and then drop you back off. That happened to me 2 times. While in that school, we got into a school bus accident. And, you know, the hustler that my mother was, I don't want to get into her, but she was like a lawsuit queen. Any hustle she can find to make money, she was making happen. So
Opportunist.
in Willingboro, we got T-boned, and there's like 9 of us in the van, and we all conspired, hey, let's act like we're her so we can go to the hospital to get out of school for as long as possible. So we're all at the hospital. I remember I was wheelchair racing with this one kid while we're in there. My mom came almost running in. Get the hell out of that wheelchair. Get, lay down. Your knee hurts and your back hurts. I'm like, Mom, what are you talking about? It doesn't. I'm not hurt. And she's like, no, yes, you are. I'm all dumb. I'm like, no, I'm not hurt, Mom. You know, she's like, yes, you are, you idiot. You're hurt. And I'm like, oh, I got it. Okay. And so we got a lawsuit out of that, Frank. And I turned 18 years old, finally got released from all the, you know, bullcrap stipulations and paroles I was under. It was kind of like a sense of huge freedom because I did something. I was supposed to go to Jamesburg, you know, state prison for boys. And like a week before my birthday, they let me go. The judge let me go in this, you know, big court case. He said, Mr. Vaughan, I think, you know, if you continue what you're doing, you're going to be in and out of prison your whole life. I'm letting you go, even though I should lock you up. I heard you have a second kid on the way. Is that true? I was like, yeah, Your Honor, he's going to be born in like 6 months. He's like, it's mandatory that I lock you up and you get sent to Jamesburg. You could be there till 20. But I'm letting you go. You're going to pay the price, you know, when you're older. And I always remember that. I always wanted to prove him wrong, but I didn't. I didn't for a long time. But he's still in the back of my mind, him prophesying that over to me. And it wasn't even for my own good. He was being ornery. Oh, you're going to pay.
Yeah.
So when he let me go, though, at that time, I was free. I came out of there, and a week later, a week later, I get this lawsuit. And what does little criminal hustler do? He takes that money to the street, and I start multiplying it through weed and, you know, other things, ecstasy, etc. And now, a couple months later, I have 2 kids now. And at the same time, I'm trying to, you know, be the best dad that I can. I was in their lives a lot, but there's still, you know, partying going on and, you know, me just glossing, looking like a pimp, you know, with all this money. And so I'm trying to balance a lot of things, you know, at the same time. And I was just super confused, man. Looking back, like, you ever hear that philosophy to parent your younger self?
Yeah.
Like, looking back, boy, I wish he had a mentor, man. I wish that kid had a mentor. I had no direction, just aimlessly feeding whatever.
Feel lost.
Yeah, you feel lost, feeding whatever desire I had in me, which, you know, probably meant 10 different things. And so that lasted till about 20 years old, and I thought I could do anything. I can go lose $5,000 at Atlantic City. I can buy any jewelry. I'm just going to make it up, you know? And so just developed some serious bad habits. I was trying to get into the union at the time, you know, how we grew up, like the union's making it. I mean, like, there's always this desire.
You got to be a real fuck up to get kicked out the union.
Yeah. If you get to the union, you made it. You know? So I was trying to get into electricians, union or plumbers, and I did have a couple of jobs, you know, and I said, you know what, I'm working here for a week and I can make this in a day. So I was always quitting, just being a, you know, total idiot. You know, finally, my kid's mom and I split up at 20, and for some reason, I took it real hard. I took it real hard. She was seeing someone else. Wasn't all her fault, you know, probably mostly my fault. But, you know, I started drinking my tears away, got with this girl. You know, this girl was doing heroin. I'm going to, you know, you are who you hang out with, you know what I mean? always turn it down my whole life. You know, never ever played around with that stuff. You know, I was just telling my team yesterday. There's like 3 of us talking. I was like, you know, growing up, you could smoke weed, drink, do coke, but you're a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
With those 3,
you're not a druggie.
You can smoke wet, you can do X, you can do acid, but nah, he's clean. He's a clean-cut guy.
Yeah.
You mess around with that crack or that heroin.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
man,
a
get
fucking
the heck out of here. But you can
junkie.
you can do those other 11 things.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, like nothing else is working, and she gave me a little tiny thing as big as a freaking tick. You know, I'm like, oh, and it just took me out to another zone for like 4 or 5 hours, and I was like, man, that worked.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely started doing, you know, did more a week later. You know, got back on my feet a week later, did this. So just slowly, Frank, to make a super long story short, there's this guy I was copping from in East Camden. I saw him later on in years in church, and it was unbelievable. But he looked like Big Pun. You know, he had a real mean face on him. I'd go to his house, and he was a very relatable guy. And he says, Phil, you're different. You're not like, you know, my customers. You're freaking different, dude. You got something. And he was like, you got diamond earrings. You got, you know, this bling bling on you. You got this nice, I had a Ford Explorer, which I thought was like, you know, like Escalade back
in the
then.
day.
The system, whatever. He's like, all this is going to come to my pocket, you know, within 6 months to a year. And I was like, what? That's the stupidest thing ever. I said, I'm not like this, man. I don't do this stuff. Like, I'm just going over a heartbreak.
Yeah.
I'll stop. Like,
I'm not like them.
Nah. I always thought I was better. I was like, nah, you won't see, maybe one more time. You won't see me after that. And boy, was he right. I gave it all to him. All to him. Then you're just exposed to, you know, hustling like everyone else does. You know, just shoplifting, you know, robberies, stealing from parents, you know, whatever it took. And now that judge was right. I'm getting locked up left and right. I'm on, you know, parole. I'm on probation. I'm on this. I'm on that. I would say from like 15 to 24 years old, what's that, 9 years? I probably had a 6 o'clock curfew for like 5 or 6 of those years. Just always bound up, Frank. Always stipulated, people always watching. Drug test every other week, just craziness. And no one else in my family was like that, but I hung out with 30 people that was their life also. You know, so you hang out with
the
them, 5
people, you know, that old saying about like you being the average of the 5 people you hang around with. Like I always swore that wasn't true, but it definitely is.
That's 100% true, and I proved it on the good side.
Yeah.
And Frank, not many people are going to relate to the story. You know, a few, but the few that do, they're like, man, come on, talk about it, you know? And it was normal.
Yeah.
And man, when I got unnormal, you know, looking back, what a freaking nightmare that was. Like, what hell? But anyway, so.
But definitely, like, going through all of that shit, in my opinion, to me, I can appreciate good so much more than somebody that hasn't went through that bad stuff.
No, 100%. I wish I was that guy that didn't go through the stuff, but at the same time, I'm thankful that I went through it all because it makes you just so grateful.
Yeah.
You know, Steve Kipnis,
I don't
Jersey, big bar, Jewish guy.
I don't know him, but I know the name.
Yeah, nice guy. I really like him a lot. And he says, yeah, Phil, I didn't have to go through any of that. Like, my upbringing was, like, real good, very, you know, wholesome and healthy. And I'm like, man, that's real. And he's like, I'm telling you, I'll tell you, Phil, you know. But it was good. I'm like, man, I wish I was like that. But I'm probably more grateful than you are in life.
Yeah, see,
you know
to me, like, I don't ever, like wish things were different for the most part, because to me it's like then you'd be a totally different person. And all the bad shit that I went through to me has made me like stronger and more you know, willing to kind of push through shit that like other people probably wouldn't.
Yeah, no, 100% there. But yeah, just to wrap up that part though, Frank, so now I'm looking at state prison again, blah blah blah. Kid's mom, I beat up one of her boyfriends, so she's not letting me see the kids. She has a new boyfriend. She thinks I'm going to beat him up, so she takes the kids away. And that was probably the most stressful time of my life. So I'm just going deeper and deeper into a hole. And so I'm locked up for the last time where I'm going to state prison, 24 years old. And while I was in jail, this is a whole different story. I can't tell the whole thing. It'll probably take 20 minutes of stuff. An old man that was a family friend, a pastor from Burlington, that had our kind of upbringing. You know, he got saved at 24. He's old now, 80 years old. Came in when it's not visiting hours, knew someone from the jail. He came in and visited me and just gave me this, like, analogy. It was like a parable. It was a story that knocked my socks off. And I was high off weed at the time. And it was weird because, like, in county jail, it's hard to get stuff. In state prison, it's easy, but in county jail, for some reason, my bunkie got weed that day, so I'm high. And when the captain said, hey, Sam Montagno is here to see you, I'm like, well, Sam Montagno? What? This is not even visiting hours. He's like, I don't know who he knows, but he's here to see you. And I was like, I can't see him. And I couldn't tell him I'm high, but I could not see him. And after he was done telling me that, I was clean and sober like I was for a year. You know what I mean? And so that sparked something huge in me. And as soon as I got out, I went to this place called Faith Farm voluntarily in deep South Jersey in cornfields on Halloween. So it was only a couple days ago, 18 years ago. And I just went there, with my COO just to reminisce over there. So I went there voluntarily, 9 months. I said, this is it. Like, I gotta get right. I actually got let out of jail accidentally. The judge did something. He had mercy on me not going to state prison, but I had another warrant, I think in Philly, and it didn't pop up when they were letting me out. And so I said, regardless, I got to get right here. Plus, it's going to help me with my case a little bit. But my heart was right. Like, I got to get my kids back.
Yep.
I have to straighten up. I have big, dreams and visions. This is it. So I went there for 9 months. Frank, best thing I ever did in my life. It was like a spiritual, just an investment in every way for the rest of my life. Never tempted again off drugs. It sounds crazy, but for drugs, I have other temptations. I got other problems. Trust me.
Yeah. Don't we all?
Jay-Z says I got 99 problems, but a girl's not one. So I got 99 problems, but drugs isn't one. Because I didn't desire them. It was like more correlated with my upbringing. Escaping and things like that. So after I came out of there, man, dude, I was just separated, man. It gave me like 10 years of a head start. Just my habits, my thinking, the accountability I had around me, the examples that I saw there, just all broken men, like transforming. And by the time the 9 months is done, like these guys are like almost different people.
Yeah.
And so that just separated me, man. It was the best thing I ever did in my life. It was a Puerto Rican ran organization, faith-based. We studied the Bible every day, went to school, did AA, NA, one-on-one counselors, worked out all the time. I started jogging there, push-ups, pull-ups, everything. And so after that, I still had all kind of problems to face. Now I did all these things from 14 to 24 years old. Now I'm right in my head, looking like $1 million, feeling like $1 million, but now I have 5 years of consequences to pay for.
Yeah.
My grandfather was alive at the time. He said something wise to my dad. He says, Phil's gonna have to pay that price till he's 30. Like this isn't nothing. That 9 months, I'm glad he did that, but damn, does he have a climb now?
Yeah, people don't realize that too, because trust me, like same shit with me. It's like you do bad for so long, and then you start doing good for a short period of time, and you think everything's supposed to fucking change. Like no, if you dig a hole for 5 years, it's probably going to take you 5 or more years to fill that hole back up.
Yep, no, 100%. And he called it. He's an old man. He's been through some stuff himself, and he said that 5. So my dad relayed the message to me, and I said, that sucks. But I knew it was true.
Yeah.
I probably wanted to know if they didn't tell me, but I knew it was true. And so I set my mind toward that. I was like, you know what? I'm feeling good, man. I never felt like this, before. I came home and friends were like, man, you're brainwashed. I was like, no, we were brainwashed growing up, man.
You're actually awakened.
I'm clear.
Yeah.
I'm clear. And I just came out like a rocket, man. Freaking, I got no license. I'm jogging all around town. So 6 months, home. I'm looking for a job left and right, getting jobs for 2-3 weeks, getting a little discouraged, like, man, I just want to work. So finally, the steel company, hires me. They say, hey, go to the back. It was all, illegal immigrants, good guys, Mexicans, Ecuadorians. And they're like, can you work with them? I'll probably make you the shop manager back there. I was like, I'll do anything. It's 3 miles away from my house, right on Route 130. And so I had no license, and I would jog to work every morning with a CD player. There's no podcast, no Apple or anything back then. So with a CD player in my pocket, listening to Les Brown, just listening to Zig Ziglar, all kind of inspirational stuff, autobiographies. When you drop all these habits, you have to replace it with something. Yeah. And I replaced it with like habitual reading. I just had this hunger to read and for knowledge and to grow and to learn about people and and hang out with good people. So I replaced it with all that good stuff. So just always listen to stuff. And I was back there just, happy, man. I remember like always looking up at the clouds. Like everything was just clear. I was making, it was like $5 on the books and $2 off the books. I was making like $7. I'm probably 20. Yeah, I'm 25 years old, probably at the time, maybe turning 25. No license. I made a deal with my kid's mom they were living in South Philly at the time, and my son got jumped. And the mom said something, and I'm not judging her in any way if she sees this, but she says, little Phil's tough as nails. He got jumped and he didn't run. And I was like, Lisa, I don't like that. I said, let's get him out of South Philly. Let's bring him to Burlington. I said, I'll still pay you child support. I need my kids here. I'm gonna coach their sports. I'm gonna do everything. And so she bit on that deal. So I had my kids with me, making $7 an hour, jogging to work, but just grateful, man. So grateful. To the normal person, they'd be depressed right now with something like in those circumstances. I was so grateful that I could just spend time with them. And I knew that, like, till 30, they need my all. Yep. I'm not going to date women. And Frank, I didn't date a woman from 24 to 30. I don't know. Something happened with this one girl one night. I don't even know if it was a full-blown thing, but I didn't even sleep with anyone. Now, listen, I had 2 kids before I was 18. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying I was a ladies' man, but, I was a man. And that's how determined and focused I was. I got to get my life back. Like, I got to get these years back. These kids need me. They're getting older. They need my all. I got to be super dad times 10, for as long as I possibly can. And women are going to distract me. Yep. And I don't know if people don't believe in God, my friends are always like, man, we don't even believe in God, but I don't know how you did that, Phil. We know you. We know you. Like, something's up there.
Somebody was helping you with that.
I don't even know if I could do that again. If something happened to my wife, I don't even know if I could do that again. So, but that's, I was just fully committed. But at that steel job, Frank, I worked with those guys gratefully, got to know a lot of them. One of them had like a local Bible study. I'd go to that. They'd speak Spanish. One person would translate for me. And after 6 months, I got my license back. I negotiated with the judge. It was for 2 years suspended. I gave him the lip when I said 2 years is too long, and he locked me up, and he let me back out real quick. Had another court date a week later, and he's like, all right, Mr. Vaughan, you're pugnacious on this license. He says, I don't trust that you got your life together because he knew me. He's like, but I'm going to give it back when I'm watching. And one thing happens, I'm taking that thing away for 5 years. And so I got my license back, gave my 2 weeks to the steel company. I said, I'm going with my older brother. He's a general contractor. I worked with him growing up, but because I didn't have a license, he couldn't use me. I'm going back, and they're like, Phil, we love the way like you hold yourself. You always work. You're working just as hard as those guys, and we want to give you a shot, selling these products. Now, I can sell things, Frank, and you can sell things. And but this was different. This is like professional, classy selling. You know what I mean? But I knew
not drug dealing.
Not selling products to a bodega. You know what I mean? So I knew, but once I get through, I knew it was going to be a hard learning curve. But once I get through all the unknown and all the technical things of the product, and I get that down, I know I can negotiate, better than most people. I know I had the essence. I just have to get around all the technical stuff. So they gave me a shot, and it was 1 year of a grind, doubting myself all the time, but just always, willing to, put in the work and still reading relentlessly, graduating through automobile university or audio university, listen to audio just 8 hours a day on the road. And I never had my own vehicle still. Now I'm 25, maybe 26, and I was driving this dump truck that they had the whole time, just roughing it. And finally, when they see that I had potential, it was like Christmas Eve. They bought me this beautiful piped out F-150, monster tires on it, all decked out, man. It was the most beautiful truck I ever seen. They're like, hey, we want to give this to you. You're our guy. You're the guy that, we're going to, plug everything into. And it was right around the recession. And 3 months later, they laid off all the other guys that had, 20, 30 years experience, people with, degrees, guys that trained me and that were like, giants in our industry. They just couldn't afford them. And they were like, Phil, we think that you're going to be able to, carry us through this. And I kept that same mentality, and while people are going down in income, I was going up in income, during that time. And so then that led to that career, for 13 years. So promised my kids I'll take them anywhere they wanted to go. I'll be there in their life. Got them in church with me, got them at sports, just connected with them personally. There was just no distractions. When you're young, boyfriends and girlfriends can take all the distraction away from the kids. Yeah. I needed my kids to know, like, I'm there and I'm not even dating because of you guys. So, like, I was able to just get major recovery in that area and, took them to Italy, wherever they wanted to go. Hey, Brittany, where do you want to go this year? I want to go to California. All right, we're all going to California. Let's go. And so that was just the best part of it, man. And so that's that part.
That's good. So that kind of puts us, connects us through growing up, the steel, and you starting the business. So where are you at today with the business, and like where are you trying to go within like the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, we have a goal to get to $21 million a year. It's not easy. Only a few people in real estate are doing it. And hey, to get to that, I may have to go into another industry. You know what I mean? But right now, just trying to really focus on South Jersey to go as deep as we can. DM's advice, translated down to Joe Evangelisti, inch wide, mile deep.
Oh yeah.
So I just want to, fully exhaust, South Jersey. We tried Philly for a little bit, but you guys are falling apart in Philly, man. This is freaking, oh my God.
Part of the reason why I stay out of residential. If it wasn't in Philadelphia, I may not have made the decision.
Yeah, because I can go all the way down Atlantic City, and we're like, we're 1 mile away from Philly. Why not just, and did some good deals, but I was like, all right, we're going back to Jersey. There's deeper we can go in Jersey. But probably do all of New Jersey, all Eastern PA, Delaware. But got a funny feeling, Frank, that we got to swing bigger and get more into your space, warehouses, commercial stuff. And I'm not
it's
talking
the same
about
shit.
Residential multi, just, warehouses, commercial stuff, flex space. That's most likely is what's going to probably, top that off. So, also coaching stuff, masterminds, lending, everything that's kind of in that whole, circle of real estate. Like there's a lot of things that we can just add in there that's already in our niche.
That's not like a totally separate business that you got to figure out.
I don't want to get into a trucking business. I have a friend doing trucking, but just all within that. So, but I'm always just learning and listening, and if something else pops up that's easy, lucrative, and fun, I'll venture into it. But I just don't want to lose that focus. That's been, one of my great gifts.
Yeah, easy, lucrative, and fun. That's Joe's acronym, I believe.
Yep. I never experienced it. I will tell you that. But I'm hoping that's true. I'm hoping it's there.
I'm starting to get it a little bit. The easy, lucrative, and fun.
Yeah. So you are definitely experiencing it.
Yeah. Like to me, how my business is now, and it's not definitely where I want to be by any stretch, but like to me, I feel like I'm finally like on the path that I want to be on. Like low volume, high net margins. Not the vanity numbers that most people are obsessed with.
Yep. Yeah, I'm reading Ben Hardy's book for a second time right now called 10X is Easier Than 2X. So it sounds like you're in that,
That's funny. Zone. Exactly, because like I was literally just talking to somebody about this, but like for forever, like I used to average like $5,000 a deal. And then like, after like a 5-year period, I got it up to like 20 grand.
Yep.
And now it's like, all right, well, hey, I don't want to, now I got that up to 100 grand, so.
Yeah. So you're making more money now from that than residential?
Yes. Yep. And I work significantly less.
Yeah. Significantly. I know we talked about it and even discussed it over pickleball, which I do owe you a rematch. I definitely have to talk to you more about that. John, listen, I'm just looking to get better. I never tell anyone that I have it all together. There's so much I got to know.
1% better every day. But no, it's
it.
like, to me, like people like us are just always trying to grow and get better every day. And
That's it.
There's other good opportunities, take advantage of them.
That's it. There's just so much stuff I don't know.
I know that you were on a time crunch, so I'm going to start getting the final 4 questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So what book, movie, or experience fundamentally changed your perspective on life, and why?
So, it's the Bible, but I'm going to give a more practical number one because the Bible is just so vast. There's so many different lessons in it. But it's How to Win Friends and Influence People. At about 27, when I'm, selling products in steel, I had to level up, and I went there. Warren Buffett gave a good quote. Like, if it wasn't for that, I don't know where I'd be at. He said the certification from the How to Win Friends and Influence People program was better for him than his Wharton. Where did he go to Wharton? No, Trump went to Wharton. I forget where he went, but it was better than
one of
his,
the fucking big schools.
Better than his freaking business degree. So I went there. That was for 12 weeks, and I just gained so much confidence. And I won a couple public speaking contests within there, and I was perceived so much greater than I thought I really was because there's always a self-limit. Like my whole life. It even consists now.
Yeah.
And so people like telling you like, my God, you really can catch a room. You're really, captivating. You're really enthusiastic. Like, holy crap, I was never told this. Because, no one tells us stuff. Everyone wants to tell you what you're doing bad. No one ever compliments you. So there's all these compliments, and you had to read the book while you're there for 12 weeks. You had to finish the book with 2 other books. And so that, man, really separated me. It helped me to put myself in other people's shoes, let's just say you're dealing with a crab apple. The guy has a bad attitude. Why is he like that?
Yeah, exactly.
What was his upbringing like? What was his day like? Does he have a wife that's nasty? Whatever. So putting yourself in other people's shoes and, just kind of certain ways to think. I really, was drawn apart from that book, and I feel like every single person, should, in a mandatory way, read it.
Yeah, I literally just finished that book for probably the third or fourth time at least just last week.
Yep. And it was written in the 1940s.
Yeah, still fucking applies to today.
But the people skills, in the introduction it says, Frank, that, out of 100% success, he said 15% of success is due to technical skills. 85% of success is due to your people skills. Mm. And so when I hit that, I was like, man, that's it. And that's what I have. Yeah. Technically, I suck. We're just talking about how this podcast is all put together. Like, why is Frank travel 45 minutes to get here? I told Cynthia, I would too, because it's a technical deficit.
I know. Everyone's like, oh, that's like such a nice studio. I'm like, yeah, it is, but it's not mine.
Yeah, I didn't build it. I didn't put it all together. I'm not running these screens. But
I'm not capable of this stuff.
So I really ran with that with the people skills. So most of all, the people skills from that book really set me apart.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I really love that book. Yeah. Question number 2. How do you define success?
So that's a good question. I can give a different answer like every year, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like at this point, you can have all the money in the world. I'm always dying to have a six-pack. I'm the closest I have been ever to it.
Same.
Happiest marriage, but like there's always something more. So, not to sound cheesy here, but like I want to please God. You know what I mean? Like this life is so short, Frank. Like I always think about the thousands of generations of people that were before us. They come and go. They say you don't remember like your fourth generation. What did that guy do? Yeah. And so it's just this life is so short. So I just want to make more of an impact than just money success or fame or hey, I was the best guy around here, something like that. So just really helping people out, bringing people to church, being a support for people, just doing God's work the best that I can. I'm so busy at work. I feel like it's kind of delaying me from that, but. That's what I would call success is what does God want you to do and you're doing it, So.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer because I feel like that, like as of like late, I really find that like I feel like my purpose is like really just trying to help people like change their life, like really. Yeah. So yeah, I love the answer on success. Yeah. Question number 3. If you could have a conversation with any historical figure, who would it be and what would you ask them?
Gotcha. So it'll be old Abraham Lincoln. Have you read his biography or anything like that?
No.
Or, so
I'll have to write that down. I'll check that out.
Dale Carnegie, the author of How to Win Friends and Influence People, he was always reading everyone's biographies. And I love people. I love underdog stories. People amaze me. Especially amazing people. Like, wow, how do you become like that?
Mike McCain was saying that's kind of what he loves to read too, like biographies.
Yeah, and the slave biographies. They're the best. Like the slaves had so much of a disadvantage, more than anyone, and for them to succeed. So that stuff like really, kicks my gears there. So, but Abraham Lincoln, he was so poor, growing up. His mom died, and him and his siblings, his dad would dress him in deerskin clothing. So, and then you might think, oh, that's.
I thought I was roughing it.
Yeah, you think, well, that's 1800s. That's normal. It was not normal, to have deerskin clothing to go to school with. That's how poor they were, and he begged, borrowed, and stole, for everything that he could. So he became a lawyer. He became a lawyer on borrowed money, borrowed books. He developed these reading habits. He'd borrow a book. He'd walk 5 miles to go borrow a book in the winter, walk 5 miles back, and he'd read the book in his little shack through a little hole in the wall where the moonlight can come through, and he had to position himself where the moonlight was, and he would read all these law books. Like that takes massive discipline and determination,
commitment.
And so he was always broke though. He just started off broke, ended broke. He had to borrow money to get to the White House. And a lot of people think why he freed the slaves was a political movement, but it wasn't. Knowing his true self. When he was leaving Springfield, Illinois, to go on a train to go to Washington, D.C. after he was elected, his whole hometown was there. And he says, guys, after my pursuit of what I'm going to do, and that was free the slaves, I don't think I'll return. Meaning like this may cost my life. Yeah, and he like knew something. This I don't think I'll be returning.
Intuition.
I don't think I'll be returning home. And that's what it took. But like the bravery and the people skills that he had, and you have to read Dale Carnegie's, Abraham Lincoln biography.
I'll definitely
he has
check it
a
out.
killer one on Teddy Roosevelt. Also, Teddy Roosevelt's
So what would you ask him?
So what I ask him is, where did it come from, Abe? Like, where did that determination come from? Like, God gave it to me. Like, I give so much of this stuff. He put the desire in me. I give him the glory for everything. So like, where did yours come from, Abraham? Where did just that fire, which I would have even gave up on with God probably in his shoes. You know what I mean? Like, how did you just keep pressing through? And all that he went through the war, he was the most ridiculed person in the war all those years. We made a big mistake. Look at this big dummy we hired as a president. Look at his ears. Look at his nose. He looks like a retard. This is America's biggest mistake. And he just kept the faith, kept the enthusiasm until they were free. So that's would be the question I ask him is, where did it come from, man? How did you have it?
Yeah.
Was it God-given? Was it from yourself?
And number 4, what was a time that you had self-limiting beliefs, and what did you do to overcome them?
It would probably be, starting off as a salesperson in the building product and steel business. They say most of our problems is we never think that we're enough.
Yeah.
Like whatever worries you have, does it drive back down to you think you're not enough? So knowing I have God and I could do greater things through him than I ever could, I had that. But there's still, self-limiting beliefs. So I just, day by day, Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm like, man, do I really have it? The rest of the days, I'm like, man, God has this. I'm the king of New York, et cetera. I had a Post-it note on my truck on the dashboard that said, I'm the king of New York. And so just continuing to, just self-affirmations, reading, listen to audio, being around awesome people that are doing it, that was a big part. Just day by day, after a couple of years, just started turning it. Like, I do have it.
Yeah.
I got something actually pretty amazing. I probably shouldn't be alive. I should still be in and out of trouble, but I'm here.
Here for a reason.
What am I going to do with it?
Yep.
So I got it. I'm going to deliver it, et cetera. So that's kind of what got me through that.
Yeah, it's funny. I think it's Alex Hormozy, I want to say, says that most people that accomplish great things, 3 things in common. 1, they think they're better than everyone.
Yeah.
But number 2, they also feel that they're never good enough.
Yeah.
And number 3 would be impulse control. But those 3 things usually will.
Impulse control is heavy.
Yeah. That was one of my. That was one of my biggest weaknesses, the impulse control part.
See, the believing you're better than everybody, I do see that as a correlation. Most successful people.
I shouldn't maybe use the words that you're better than everyone, that you're great, and you don't think that anyone else is better than you.
100%. And half of them are arrogantly living like that, where the other half are just like, no, I'm born here for an amazing reason. I got better gifts, but they do it humbly. So it's like half and half. I see the arrogant type, they're so egotistical. So hopefully I stay on the humble part. If you ever see me out there, barking, man, bring me down.
I will.
Yeah, but that's a good point. And Alex Hormozy's just, I love him.
Yeah, I
so
love
much.
him. Him and his wife share great content.
He shoots it straight.
All right, well then that pretty much wraps up episode 8. Again, Phil, great story. Definitely some gems that you dropped today.
Appreciate it, man.
If the audience wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that, and what would you be able to help them with?
On social media, everything's Phil Buys Houses Fast. Keep it simple. I'm a salesman at heart. Phil Buys Houses Fast is all my names.
All right. Well, yeah. Again, greatly appreciate you hopping on today. And please, everyone, subscribe, share the podcast, comment. Greatly would appreciate any feedback. And thanks for joining us today for episode 8.